Hi, I'm Max Spainhammer.
And I'm Troy McCormick. Welcome to Indiana Outdoor Adventures. Indiana Outdoor Adventures is brought to you by Wind River Outfitters, Idaho's finest guide service; Voluforms, one of the Midwest's leading providers of print products and services; Maston's Deer Scents; Hillbilly Custom Game Calls; the Deer Age Tool app; Hunter's Safety System; and Fire Knock, the most advanced lighted knock. Welcome to Glendale Fish and Wildlife Area. Today we're going to be out using telemetry to track down some quail that we banded back in February as part of a study that they're doing here to monitor habitat and locations of birds dependent upon different property elements. So let's join Bud Ververka in checking out where we can find some quail today on the property.
We'll always try to get a general location from our first point and just get a direction as to which way we're going to head. We use a combination of triangulation and homing. Triangulation is using specific points, basically get an angle, kind of a direction, and then using several other points to make kind of a cross or triangle. Homing is actually following in on the bird. And so what we typically do is try to get pretty close to the bird and then triangulate around in a small area, maybe 10 meters around the bird. So it appears to be down this way. This is these signals, we get about a half-mile range typically, maybe a little over. But when you get heavy vegetation, dew on everything in the morning, it can make it difficult.
Initial tracking of the quail is conducted with an antenna mounted on top of a pickup truck, and the staff drives around the property searching for a certain signal frequency. Once a bird is generally located in an area, they then switch to a handheld unit for pinpointing the quail's exact location. Each collar has an assigned frequency, so the researchers can set their equipment for that frequency and they know exactly which quail they're tracking.
Once I feel like I'm starting to get closer to the bird, I'll start to work a circle around it as opposed to going straight in on it. That allows us to get a good perspective exactly what location it's in without just bull rushing the bird. Our attempt usually is to try not to flush the bird as much as we can. Anytime the lack of disturbance causes less stress to the bird, less chance of predation. Plus we get a little more accurate reading as to what the bird is doing day to day. The more we flush the bird, the more we're going to be influencing their day-to-day activities. I think we're fairly close to this bird here. Appears to be in the soybeans. We'll make an attempt to flush this bird today. This bird's a male. We don't have any worry about it being on a nest. This bird's been very active in its movements, and so we'll just take a look and see what the bird looks like physically, if we can get it up in the air, what the collar looks like, and hopefully we can get it up in the beans. Sometimes these birds tend to be runners in beans. So we'll make an attempt here.
We were out here in February putting some radio collars on quail, and today we're out in the field using telemetry tracking to locate them. Kind of review for the viewers why we're doing this and what the process is.
Yeah, we're doing this study out here at Glendale F&W Area. And what we want to do is we want to look at the habitat that these birds are using, what locations they're using to nest, where they're taking their young to brood, and then based on the banding we did on these birds as well, if we're getting any mortality from hunting, or if these birds, we can get them captured next year, if we're getting any carryover to the following year. So what we're really trying to do is see what these birds are using every day.
You know, people that saw the first show were just amazed that you could put a radio tracking collar on something as small as a quail, but it didn't impede their flight at all.
No, these birds do fine. We've had these collars on these birds, particularly the ones we tracked today. We've had them on here since early March. The female we tracked did great, and we had she had 10 young on her nest, or 2 weeks out from her nest. Typically they have 13 to 15 eggs, but that's not a significant loss. And she was actually a second-year bird too. She was an adult when we captured her, so she's doing just fine. And we've lost some birds due to radio failure this year, and actually more radio failure than any other mortality. Like we lost a couple birds to storms, some birds to predation.
Voluforms is one of the Midwest's leading providers of print products and services. We provide our customers with total business solutions for every office need. That includes full commercial color and black and white printing, forms management, logo wear, advertising items, and office supplies. We're more than a print shop. We're your printing and forms management specialist. Voluforms provides quality customer service. So give us a call or email us today and let us help you with your business solutions. If you've dreamed of a western big game hunt or a summer vacation, Wind River Outfitters, Idaho's finest guide service, offers exciting fully guided hunts for elk, mule deer, black bear, and mountain lion, as well as summer fishing trips in the Gospel Hump Wilderness area of central Idaho. Accessible only by foot or horseback, the area reserved exclusively for Wind River Outfitters provides exceptional hunting opportunities. You'll enjoy hunting on a whole new level. Visit www.windriveroutfitters.com for more information. Follow Indiana Outdoor Adventures online with Facebook, Twitter, and our website. Stay up to date with our exciting adventures as we're out in the field filming and meeting new people. From news updates and announcements to Twitter posts by co-host Troy McCormick. Why wait until the next season of shows when you can follow us as we're filming them? Join us online to get the most current news on Indiana Outdoor Adventures.
This bird is doing what they typically do in beans, and they are running. This male, and he's just pretty much just staying ahead of us. As we get close, he'll run again, and he's not wanting to make an attempt to flush. Probably have to find some kind of barrier or a pathway in the beans before he would flush. So we'll make one more quick run at him here without hurting these beans and see if we can pop him up. So we can't seem to get him up today. Hopefully we'll catch him in a fence row or some more stable vegetation that we can actually pop him up here some other time and get a look at him. But we'll go ahead and mark the location where we basically had our triangulation on him up here on the top of the hill, and move on to our next bird.
And this is some really thick foliage to come up out of if you don't have to.
Yeah, and you know, this is what you know, what they want when they're talking, we were talking about brooding habitat and other things, is these birds can hide in this. It's perfect overhead cover. It allows for good movement underneath. These birds can run clean. They don't, you know, and there's nothing to stop them from running. So as they, you know, they're going along, you know, usually you have to get some kind of barrier before these birds will jump. We actually had one bird just the other day we were out here tracking, and it did the same thing, run around the beans until it come across a just a little ditch area, and that bird went up, popped up. But it had maintained a good distance of about 50 yards ahead of us. So they're pretty attuned to hearing us and knowing when we're coming.
Yeah.
And
if we take a look down here under the foliage, we can see that it's a lot more open under here. So it would be easier to take a run through there than to try and pop up through it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, perfect would be if these beans, you know, maybe with no-till, tend to be a little weedier. Then it's going to provide a little more of food for the animals as well, because there's a little more weed, means a little more insects, and you know, that's what they want. Right now, they're basically using it just as move-through cover, but there's not a lot of food here, and so you know, a perfect world, you want to add maybe get some weeds in here and some more bugs, but I know most farmers don't want that. Also, one of the issues we have is this is great root cover this time of year, but most of these fields are going to be completely bare come winter time when we need a little more winter cover. And winter cover is something that we're also lacking. Problem is, once we get all the fields cleared off, it pushes all the birds just towards the fence rows, and those make for easy predatory corridors.
Sure.
So, you know, a little more, if we had a few more connections, a little more habitat maintained year-round, thicker fence rows, wider fence rows. One of our good programs is the CP33 field buffers. That provides a much wider area along a fence row or along the edge of a woods that a bird can escape from predation. So, you know, those are something that this time of year these birds have, you know, taken advantage of human activity and will use these beans. So
let's mark this one and go find another one.
Okay, excellent.
Tell me a little bit about bird number 2 we're going to try and locate.
Okay, this bird here is a female. She had a successful nest earlier this year. She came off mid-June off the nest. We did make a brood attempt on her. We were a couple days late, but on our attempt, we found that she had 10 young that were flighted at that time. That was 14 days out, so that's great to see a bird at 2 weeks with 10 young still. They usually have somewhere between 13 and 15 eggs, so we can expect that she's had some loss. But to have 10 chicks out there at 2 weeks is real good. We flushed her five days ago maybe, and I don't know if Jamie could tell me, but we flushed her a few days ago. She had 4 chicks with her, but at this point we're not expecting chicks to be lost. We're expecting that maybe the chicks are starting to wander away. If you flush a female with the chicks, she only may have a couple with her. They may be out feeding and everything, because once they're flighted they get much more independent.
Now our goal today is not to flush this one.
Yeah, we try to stick away from flushing the birds too often, and being she wasn't flushed that long ago, we want to make sure that we don't try to flush her again.
So it's more of just a confirmation she's still in the area.
We try to confirm what she's doing. If she's alive, for one thing, is the first thing, and that's based on our signal. And our signal on her, we have one beat for every 30 seconds. And so that tells me that she is alive. That'll beat will increase if she's dead.
And how is that determined? You get like 2 beeps if it's stationary for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, and it depends on the radio. I believe ours are 8 hours. So if that radio caller sits still for 8 hours, and that's perfectly still, then that signal will go to mortality. Sometimes we'll have what sounds like a mortality, and that bird has just been held still, maybe had a predator in the area and has been holding, or bad weather, and we'll happen to come out and it'll sound like a mortality. And so we typically don't try to find a mortality on the first day. You'll list it as mortality, and then you try to find it the next day, because you may go out there and that bird may be alive again.
Bud, tell me the difference of this signal that we're tracking now. This is a mortality signal?
Yeah, this is a mortality signal. The beep is twice the pace of the live signal, basically once every second. And so we're trying to track down a radio collar now. It's on the ground.
So more than likely the bird's been killed and the collar has come off.
We've had some of these collars here, this new kind we've got, have actually come apart. My hope is that this actually came apart and we don't have a dead bird. The habitat doesn't look like a place where a predator would take this bird. It's not for a raptor kill. It'd be underneath a tall tree. It's not right on the edge of an opening where we usually find a mammalian kill.
And you've actually taken the antenna off and you're just using the cable, I notice.
Yep.
Does that allow you to get more direct signal when you're needing to get up close?
Yep. Yeah, more signal we take off. You know, taking the antenna off, which is just pulls in just too much strength, and I'll keep turning it down. One thing we can try always is if you could step on the collar too. She touched the collar, so it's just gone to a regular signal. Either I'm standing on it or it's right in here, but one of us has stepped on it here.
Because it got quieter?
Yep.
That's it.
Yep, and that collar has come apart. See how the antenna has separated? That's the reason we're picking up such a poor signal with it, is we're actually picking it up from that as opposed to the antenna. The antenna is actually broken off. This was the same failure we had on another radio collar. So this bird is not going to be counted as a mortality. There's no damage to the collar itself. We see that there's no teeth marks on here. There's no feathers laying where the bird. This bird just probably come across as this bird was moving through here. This collar just come apart, which is always a better thing, but it just means that we're down one less bird.
For tracking purposes, but
yeah.
It may be still alive. Let me hear that, what the mortality, of course you're moving it now.
I've moved it now, so you're no longer get the mortality of that double beep. Now we're back to our single beep for every 2 seconds. And but that's what's happened with some of these new collars we've gotten. And this was our second remaining female, which is disappointment now, so we know we won't have another brood capture this summer. Yeah. So, but at least she's still alive, and she was using this area. She was actually in the process of egg laying out here. Okay. So somewhere in this field, she's got a nest going.
Because when you're trapping the birds, these are live catch traps that you've baited. Then you're able to catch them, we collar them, and we release them back into the same area where they were trapped.
Yep.
Okay. And how many did you trap? How many did you collar? How many have you got left this late in the year?
Well, we trapped about a little over 30 birds. We collared, I think, around 21, 22 of those birds. Okay. We had a bunch of males come in towards the end. We were hoping to get some females, so we were holding on to some radio collars for those, but we didn't catch any more females. But we ended up with a fairly even split of males to females. And then what ended up happening is you lose a few birds of predation, particularly in May. It's a high predation month when the coveys break up. Our coveys here broke up right about the end, probably the first week of May was when really the coveys broke up. And then we get high predation then because these birds are on their own, they're moving, they're trying to find mates. So we got some predation. We lost a couple in those severe storms we had this year.
Right. Ice and
well, I mean, and not so much. I mean, with those tornado weather, the tornado weather that we had come through. Yeah, we lost a couple birds then. But then the radio failure has been hurting us the last month or so, and we lost 8 birds due to radio failure in the last month. So we're down to actually currently 3 birds that we have signal for.
When you say you lost birds, you just lost the ability to track them.
Lost the ability to track them.
They're probably still out there.
Yeah, we actually have one, and actually today we're at a nest of one bird we had. We had lost a signal on it. She had been on a nest for 21 days, which is right about the time for them to come off. 21 to 23 days is when they'll take their chicks off the nest, and the birds will hatch. So at 21 days, we lost her. So I come in on the 22nd day, and we couldn't find her, and I didn't know what was going on. We talked about getting a helicopter, maybe find them, and but I came down here to the nest where she was at and walked in and flushed her right off the nest, saw the collar in on her neck. Yeah. So we knew we were having some radio failure. Yeah. At that time when I flushed her, though, her chicks were actually hatching from the eggs at that point.
Wow. Okay.
And she only had a brood of about 5 eggs. Okay. So she was probably a young bird. Yeah. This may even have been her second attempt at a nest. I'll have to look back at our data from what our intermittents were getting, but she may have tried to make an attempt before. If they do egg laying and in the process of egg laying on that first round, the nest gets predated, or she starts to sit and all of a sudden you get a storm and it floods the nest out, then the preceding nests she creates are going to have fewer eggs. She always have that first nest is always the highest, most productive.
Okay. Well, good. Well, tell you what, let's go back out in the field a little bit more. Let's track some birds, and let's end up at that nest you were talking about. We'll take a look at how you take the information from a nest site like that.
Okay.
Great. Hillbilly Custom Game Calls, offering the finest and precision-made diaphragm mouth calls for wild turkey hunting. Each call is handmade and gauge stretched for exact tension each and every time. Select from double and triple reed calls like you've never heard before. We also have an assortment of handmade wood box calls, glass and slate top pot calls, and predator calls that will make us your source for all of your custom game call needs. Look for us online at www.hillbillygamecalls.com. If you've dreamed of a western big game hunt or a summer vacation, Wind River Outfitters, Idaho's finest guide service, offers exciting fully guided hunts for elk, mule deer, black bear, and mountain lion, as well as summer fishing trips in the Gospel Hump Wilderness area of central Idaho. Accessible only by foot or horseback, the area reserved exclusively for Wind River Outfitters provides exceptional hunting opportunities. You'll enjoy hunting on a whole new level. Visit www.windriveroutfitters.com for more information. Voluforms is one of the Midwest's leading providers of print products and services. We provide our customers with total business solutions for every office need. That includes full commercial color and black and white printing, forms management, logo wear, advertising items, and office supplies. We're more than a print shop. We're your printing and forms management specialist. Voluforms provides quality customer service. So give us a call or email us today and let us help you with your business solutions. Bud, tell me what we've got here that we're working on.
Okay, well, this is one of our nest locations this year. And we're not very far from the road. That's actually typical of most nests. These birds like to be in an area where they're within about, I think about 80% of nests are within 20 feet of an opening, maybe the road or a crop field. And of that, the majority are actually within about 10 feet. So here on Glendale Fish and Wildlife Area, we have these areas of strips that run right along the edge of the road, so we get a lot of our nesting right up close to the road. This nest here, small bowl, was actually built in the base of some broom sedge, and it doesn't look like much right now. This has been trampled down a little bit, and it's been a couple weeks since the birds were here. And typically, what we'll do is to sample the vegetation at these nests is we lay a plot. This is 1 meter plot over top of the nest. And each of these blocks, we look at what percentage of different types of vegetation are within those blocks. So this first block here, we'd say it's about 80% broom sedge. There is about maybe 10% fescue, about 10% goldenrod, and we do that onward as we go on through each plot. That helps us kind of map out the vegetation around that nest. From the bowl, we measure out 3 meters to a random location of our basically density pole there of how much vegetation cover there is. And so at a 1/2 meter height, which is right about here, I look straight at that board to see from the nest bowl how much cover there is. And there isn't a lot of cover. These birds like to have decent views outward. This small disc here we put inside the nest bowl, and I'll give you an example of where this nest bowl was at. It's right here, and that would sit right inside the bowl. It's about almost the exact same size as that bowl. We actually located this nest earlier this year. It had 5 eggs in it. And this here, then from that point we do some more sampling. We take a random location again and go 1 meter away from the disc, which is where I'm about right now. And from that, I look at how many of those different spaces on there, which are 6 of them, how many I can see. And so from this location here, I could actually see all 6.
Good point. Tell me the data that's being collected, both from this study and the telemetry tracking, what are you going to use that information for?
Well, hopefully the information that we gather will help us to manage not only our properties, but make recommendations to private landowners about what they can do to enhance their quail numbers. You know, if we create enough corridors of this ample vegetation that we need for quail, then we can move birds into new areas even. You know, the big factor of this is geared towards our properties and making our properties more beneficial for bobwhite quail. And what can we do on our properties, on our properties we do, you know, we put crops in, we mow for pathways for rabbit hunters and deer hunters. We create different types of habitat, native grasses. Are the birds using those things? Are they avoiding certain areas? And so based on this study, it allows us to take and look at, you know, what are these birds using every day? Why are they favoring the private land maybe over the property? Is there certain elements here? One element we've discovered early on, and we already knew, but is, you know, definitely coming into effect with our study, is that we don't have a lot of broom sedge on our property. And if you look around here, there is pretty much broom sedge everywhere. And it's a very important nesting element for bobwhite quail. They love to nest in the base of these broom sedges. And it's here, and we had 2 nests just in this small stretch here. And there was a possibility of a 3rd in this area, but that bird disappeared before it settled down to nest. You got to have all those habitats combined. And so you got to have all the pieces of the puzzle, and we know we're missing some, and that's the key to the returning bobwhite quail. Is we've got to get all those pieces together, and then we've got to expand it beyond our borders of maybe Glendale Fish and Wildlife Area and pull our you know, neighboring landowners in to tell them, hey, you know, we can have a pretty good population of quail here if you guys will do this. And maybe we can provide some additional incentive. And we're trying to work at incentive programs, you know, working with the natural resources, you know, NRCS, and you know, the Farm Services Administration, about creating you know, incentives for guys to put this type of habitat in that we're in right now.
That's all we've got for today. Join us again next time, right here on Indiana Outdoor Adventures.